Now, the final part that I've got here is a new part that's been recently introduced in the podcast. So it's just a few questions, but it's like a kind of 60-second thing. So it can be yes, no, a name, or just your answer on that. So I'll be honest and say we've done it a few times in the podcast recently. It's went well sometimes. It's went absolute rotten other times.
That's allowed, John. Don't worry about
it. This is why it's pre-recorded.
Exactly.
So we'll give it a go on this. A few questions here, and I'll just fire away. So, in your time, the most influential player in the dressing room?
Davy Cooper.
And your favourite film?
The Gladiator.
And favourite food?
Italian.
And growing up, who were your footballing idols?
Oh, I've got to say footballing idols. Back then, John, 1978 World Cup carried a host of top players. But as a young player, I really loved watching the Willie Hendersons and the Alec McDonalds, the Danny McGrains, and all these. There was so many good players back when I was a young guy growing up. And then, of course, internationally, the great German team, the great Dutch team, of course, the wonderful Argentinian side that carried all these great names. It's too many to mention, John, but great players.
And in your career, have you ever been offered the Rangers or Celtic job?
Funny enough, I got a call a number of years back from a very famous journalist called Graham Spears of the Times. He called and contacted my agent asking if I would consider being manager of Celtic. And of course, I don't know where Graham was going with this one, but he certainly made contact about the Celtic job. I certainly made it clear as a self-employed manager, we would always consider and talk to any interested party. We spoke to Graham about it. It never went anywhere. Likewise with Rangers, my agent was contacted by John Gilligan, one of the directors of Rangers, who informed us that I was on a shortlist to take over the manager's job at Ibrox. I would be contacted by a guy called Stuart Robertson, who was on the board at the time. And I was told that I was getting dragged into Rangers to conduct an interview as one of the potential candidates. And I've got to say, John, sadly, none of the two of them happened, and we still don't know why.
And who's been your biggest influence in your career?
Carlo Ancelotti has been a great, I think, wonderful manager. Certainly my father has played a huge part in my career. And the guy that I mentioned earlier on, who I met when I was a young player, a guy called Jimmy Dickey, Manchester United chief scout for many decades. These two guys, Jimmy and my dad, were very influential, John, but certainly there's a number of other managers that I look at, and I've got to say, they really gave me a great appetite for football.
And finally, which manager do you most admire?
Ancelotti. There's your one. There's no doubt. I look at this guy, John, and I look at the way he handles himself, the success that he's had, vastly experienced guy. You can see that the players really admire who he is and what he's all about. And I've got to say that I think he's certainly, for me, a very influential figure in looking at different managers and who you respect. He's certainly one that I certainly respect, John, I've got to say.
And just to touch on that as well, just from like kind of my take on him, he very quietly just goes about his business.
You look at him, it's funny enough, John, I've been down to Real Madrid a number of years back, and Vicente Del Bosque was the manager. And I spent about 7 days down in Madrid at the training ground and watching some games. And this guy was the same, Del Bosque, a very calm figure, a real influential figure. Again, wonderful career. Similar to these two guys, one I'll mention also, Claudio Ranieri, who I visited at Juventus. Very respectful, very helpful, wonderful conversations. Taught me an awful lot with the questions that I asked. So I'd say these three guys, John, you'll find it very difficult to compare with these three in the way that they handle themselves, the success that they've had, and of course, the respect that I've got from their team and their players.
Sorry, just based on that, I think you should probably take over this podcast and go and get these guys. But look, Billy, I really do appreciate you taking the time today to do this. As I say, I'll be hoping to see you in the dugout soon. That's when I'll be champing on your door asking for the next interview.
Well, listen, you will see me in the dugout. There's absolutely no doubt about that. That will happen. When that happens, I'll be delighted to hear from you. I hope you found that interesting, and that was exactly what you were trying to get out it, and were hoping to get out it. And it was a pleasure to talk to you, John. It was absolutely first class, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate your time, and all the best.
John, keep in touch, and all the best. Good luck to you.